How's it going, everybody? My name is Baby Smooth, and today I'll be going over a Backpack Battles tier list of every class item, and I'll be talking about some builds that can be made with them, and just really helping you figure out how to gain rank and/or have a good time. There's a few of these items that are absolutely not viable in this game right now. The balance is just not there right now. We just had, the release of those 2 new characters, and the game is chaotic. But I'm here to help you narrow down your choices and maybe help you figure out how to build these classes yourself. Now, my criteria for what makes a build good is, can it win? Can it gain rank into Masters? I myself am a Grandmaster player. Not to, toot my horn. Let's just stop. Let's get into it. Let's start the video. Some of these items I'm not uber familiar with, only because nobody's figured them out yet. I've seen a lot of boards on my climb to Grandmaster, and I'm just going to tell you how I feel about every single one of them. I've played a lot of the game. Let's go. We're going to start the video with our first item. That's going to be the Mega Clover. Now, the Mega Clover is going to be one of these items that people just really have not figured out yet. Will they figure it out soon? I don't know. When you look at the item, it has a ton of potential. The stats on it, you got generate 2 lucky clovers every time you enter a shop. Sale chance plus 8%. Chance to find unique items plus 20%. This sounds like a scary thing. It sounds like it could lead to a bunch of funny things. It seems like a really fun item. But I'm afraid that's all it is in the current meta. Just a really fun item. It increases your chance to find those uniques. You could have some present runs. It could be really cool. Ranger itself kind of has issues these days. If Ranger gets a buff, God forbid they buff the Ranger bag, then this item will be the most incredible thing in the game. Because you're going to have so many clovers, you're going to have so much crit chance right out the gate. It's going to be really good. Next, we've got the arrow from Ranger. And now the piercing arrow weapons deal plus 30% crit damage. They remove 5 armor on crit. And item activates give a 40% chance to gain 1 luck. Now, this item was the old Clover. I'm putting, I didn't mention it. I put the Clover into B tier. People just don't really know what to do with it yet. But it's also not just that they don't know what to do. It's that there's a huge class imbalance. But more on that later. Ranger in general is just not very good right now. But this segues very nicely into our next item, which is the Big Bowl of Treats. The Big Bowl of Treats. Gain 2 random buffs and make gold stars. It's going to make food trigger faster, up to 100%. Alright, cut. This segues very nicely into our next item, which is the Big Bowl of Treats. You're going to gain 2 random buffs every 4 seconds, and food triggers faster, up to 100% if you put the food there. But the kicker is you're not really even going to connect food to it. You're going to want to connect lucky pigs to it, because friends of the forest can appear in the shop, and all your pets have a 30% chance to be activated twice. This item is insane. This item makes rats appear, and when rats appear, you're going to have a good time. One of the most powerful builds in the current meta is to stack a steel goob on a light goob, and to have a bunch of woodland critters there, including the rats and including the squirrels. You are countering Pyromancers who rely on their heat and hitting you, and you're countering Berserkers because if a Berserker can't hit you, you're just going to win. Now, there are some answers that are being developed to the rat build, but I would wager that the rat build is one of the most potent counters we will ever see in the course of this game's history. The amount of blind you can put out, the amount of cuteness overlord you can put out will absolutely stomp on your opponents. It's really funny, it's really cute, and it's a really nice build to put together. This is our first S tier item, the Big Bowl of Treats. Next item, we've got the Leafy guy. It's the Yggdrasil leaf. If you played the beta, you would have seen this item a lot. You're going to gain 1 mana and 1 regen for each nature item touching it. You get a lot of those. And heal for 5 and cleanse 2 debuffs every time you use 5 mana. Now, this item is kind of insane, or at least it used to be. It's going down to B, maybe even C tier, because they've nerfed the best items that interact with it. This could be our first C tier item. I just don't think The world is ready for Yggdrasil Leaf. I don't think there's anything in the meta that can win with it. Time will tell. I'll be putting out a new video each week. But right now, this week, don't buy this item. Next, we've got the Poison Ivy. Now, Poison Ivy was the bane of every Reaper's existence. You have a 5% chance to resist debuffs for each nature item. You gain spikes. Whenever you gain spikes, you inflict 2 poison. And when the opponent reaches 19 poison, they take plus 20% damage. This was a very powerful item in the beta. And if you saw this as a Reaper, you were very likely losing. Nowadays, not too many things are inflicting debuffs. It could maybe beat the rat build, but the rat builds aren't prevalent enough that you would want to run this. You would just lose to Berserker or Pyromancer. Such is the story for most Ranger items. So finally, we have the Ranger Bag. Now, the reason we're going to talk about this is because I will use these as a surrogate. I will use these as a staple to talk about the class in general, but also the effect of the bag. This bag is probably the weakest bag in the game when it comes to class bags. Even the Reaper bag is stronger than this. It basically just gives you, 6 slots, and the items inside gain 10% crit for each luck. 10%, okay, I'm sorry. Items gain 10% crit chance plus 3% for each luck, to correct myself. It doesn't matter, though. This item it's not it. The Pyromancer bag blows us out of the water. The Berserker bag blows us out of the water. I'd love to see a potential rework to this bag, and maybe it would shake up the whole class's dynamic. I don't know, maybe it would make every other item viable. I don't know, Ranger's not in a great spot. Next, we have our first actual item. The Forging Hammer. You spawn in with this bad boy. It deals 1 additional damage per empower, but you're not really going to worry about that. You're not really going to be empowered. When you're using this Forging Hammer, it's usually going to be the early game, and what you want it for is it's going to allow you to craft incredible items in the form of the gloves and the armor. Now, you don't really want to make those boots. You never really want to have the boots, and you definitely don't really want to enhance the boots. You don't want to put too much stock in the boots. I said boots a lot, but that's because you won't need those until a Cryomancer build comes into prevalence, and Cryomancer's in a weird state right now, but more on that later. The Forging Hammer is going to S tier because it makes the most incredible item in the game, the Dragon Scale Armor. That stuff just makes you not take damage at all. Imagine not taking damage at all. It reduces your damage taken by an additional 15%. And the way the percent stack is if you have, I think, 5 of these and this little deer guy, which is making you take less damage as well during Battle Rage, you can be physically invincible. You can actually be invincible to all damage, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, Dragon Scale Armor, yes. Dragon Scale Gloves, also yes, if you get enough of those chokers that make this item very good. Next, we have the Knuckles. Some people think the Anvil is better than the Knuckles. I would say the Knuckles are in a better spot than the Anvil. The Knuckles have a wonderful effect that has an on-hit chance to stun for 0.5 seconds. It has a 30% chance. And star items gain 5% accuracy and 5% crit chance. You'll see a few hammer builds out there rocking this. I don't think the hammer builds are very good. I found great success using the Knuckles and honestly just a double axe. And those are my only 2 weapons, and that's how I climbed to Grandmaster. Now, when I was playing Steel Goob, don't play Steel Goob, by the way. It's a pain in the weenie to make. In the high ranks, you just won't get away with it. You'll lose your whole games trying to make a Steel Goob. I would also have a dagger on top, but unless you're getting a vamp dagger or something, it's only really worth it to have those 2 weapons, the double axe and the Knuckles. Things will shape up, things will get shaken up if they ever nerf double axe, which they surely should. But for now, brass knuckles are on top, in my opinion. Next, we've got the Wolf Emblem. Wolf companions are offered in the shop. Oh, by the way, I've put it over the rat item because you can truly build in a way that will counter the light goob rat tech. I know everybody thinks you're countered by the rats, but with enough cleansing potions, crowns, or just a can-do attitude, the Knuckles can still beat the rats. Everybody thinks the rats are the end of Berserker builds. It's really not. I had to deal with them yesterday on the climb to Grandmaster, and it was just fine. We found ourselves beating a lot of rats with our incredible counter tech. The game's kind of about countering stuff. So if you're seeing a lot of rat boards, you're going to want to build those things to counter them. The crowns and those cleansing potions. They'll do you a lot of wonder, but you also have to make sure you have good fundamental boards that'll beat stuff that you're not countered by. I think the greatest boards in the game are things that have answers to everything, which is kind of impossible to do, but if you can do it, you'll be a gamer. Next, we finally have the Wolf emblem. Wolf companions are offered in the shop. When you have at least 5 in power, you have a 30% chance to resist debuffs. Star weapons gain 10% crit chance, 10% for each green pet. This item right now is like C tier, but it's so cute, and I feel like there's a lot of hidden tech. This will be OP later. This could possibly be an answer to the rat builds with its debuff resistance. And look, I really want this to be strong. I do believe there will be wolf builds in the future that just go hard. I found myself losing to exactly one stalling wolf emblem build, and what they did was they had a bunch of puppies of wisdom, those dogs that gain you armor and stuff. They had some moon shields, and they had some other mana gaining armor, and it was just a bad time for me. They were just absolutely popping off, and they just wouldn't die. They ruined my stamina. Even with like 5 bananas, it was a bad time. So on the knuckle build topic, you will have insane stamina issues. People will tell you Anvil is better simply because they're too lazy to put 17 bananas on their board so they can swing their axe. The knuckle build does clear the Anvil build in the late game, but in the mid game you are going to struggle. The Anvil build will smack you as soon as you hit mid game. But into the late game, you can build better than them. The stun effect is just so good. You can even glove your knuckles so that they stun more frequently. That's a pro tip I'd like to give you guys. Glove your knuckles. For more pro tips, watch my Barbarian guide. I'll be putting out a new one. Anyway, let's talk about the Anvil. Now, there's no way the Anvil's not going into S rank, but it's going under the rats. The rats will beat the Anvil so hard and so easily. It's disgusting. Now, obviously, you can do the same tech. You can still buy the cleansing potions that I talked about for the knuckle build. You can still buy the crowns that are reducing blindness on you, but you're not gaining the percent accuracy on hit, so you're still going to miss yourself to death. Now, the Anvil build is really awesome. It allows you to buy a bunch of gem boxes and get away with it. It's just so strong with the current state of double axe. They really need to nerf that item, but I'm happy they haven't yet. It's really fun just whacking people with the double axe and building around that. I have a good time. The Anvil build is very powerful. It's not going to beat the rats, and in the late game, the knuckles will win, but in the early game, it is the king. You are going to smack the rats and the knuckle build before they come together. It is probably one of the easier builds to put together. You want to get all that dragon scale armor. You want those dragon scale gloves because you're not using stamina on hit. It's so easy to fill out the Anvil with empowered gems or even burning coals around it. And so every time you craft an item, you generate a flame, which is going to give you heat. For each star crafted item, the green weapon gains 2 damage and uses 5% less stamina. You will have the world's easiest to swing double axe. You don't need 17 bananas on your board. You can fill it with more meaningful things like 30,000 gem boxes if you're a greedy little rat like some of the people in my Discord. Anyway, next we are going to talk about this guy. Now this thing is the Deerwood Guardian. So damage taken reduced by 10%. Battle rage lasts 0.5 seconds longer for each nature item. You can get up to like 5, 6, 7 items in there. Every 1 second during battle rage, heal for 7 and gain 2 mana. This is a hard item to work around. I'm sure you've seen the legendary Excalibur, the Excalipan Guardian builds. It's crazy. It's insane, but it's hard to put together. We're going to put this into hidden tech. This has one of the most oppressive sounding stat lines to an item. It's very scary if stuff comes together with this. I think there's still hidden tech that needs to be unlocked. If we were to see a nerf to any of the other Berserker builds, if we were to see a nerf to how Berserker Rage works, then we would absolutely see Elderwood Guardian become one of the main builds. Very, very quickly, this build is ready to be OP, even more so than the dogs. It is ready, it is waiting to come out of the nature forest and destroy everything. It's going to be crazy in the future. Next, we have the Shaman Mask. Runes are offered in the shop, and the start of battle, you gain 1 luck for each socketed gemstone. Every 3 seconds, you're going to be using 2 luck to gain 5 random buffs. This is an item that I want to be a bit better. But with the current state of the Knuckles and the Anvil, it's just not. I'm going to give it like... I should probably give it A tier just because Berserker is so broken right now. Berserker is God tier. It's obviously going to beat out those Ranger builds. If you have any semblance of a build together, the double axe, I see people trying to make the greater sword work, the busted blade. And, you know, there might be a day that the busted blade works, but literally, once again, nothing will ever beat the double axe when it comes to Berserker's power in this current state of the game. So, Shaman goes to a high A. It'll still beat a lot of stuff. You're going to get ratted to death. You might gain luck from your random buffs, but you're going to lose your luck anyway. So, it's not exactly a great answer to these blind builds that can destroy your world. Anyway, enough about the Shaman. I think this item can be OP in the future. Those runes are really cool. They're really interesting to work around. There's one that stuns enemies. There's one that gives you crit damage, crit hit. There's one that can even like reduce debuffs on you, reduce stamina costs and all that. But there's just no reason to play Shaman instead of the Knuckles and the Anvil. Next, we've got the Berserker Bag, the Duffel Bag. When your health drops below 50%, enter Battle Rage for 5 seconds. Only happens once. During Battle Rage, items inside trigger 30% faster, and you take 20% reduced damage. What the hell were they thinking when they made this thing? This is insane. And you spawn in with this. This basically guarantees that you're beating every Ranger, most Reapers, but no Pyromancers, by the way. This bag is really strong. This is an A tier bag because I just know it's not going to be up with... You know what? It's an S tier bag. In the early game, it can struggle absolutely against Pyromancers. It can, but you can build around that. If you build a broom and a shield, you're going to have a good time as long as you got like a banana, garlic. You can beat those Pyromancers because Pyromancers don't know how to play this game. All they do is look for whetstones and they build torch and they never get any other items. You can totally beat them up in the early game. The mid game, not so much. But the late game, this bag is way more useful with its Berserker Rage. It is an S tier item. We're done with Berserker. We move on to the Reaper. My favorite class in the beta. I played about 300 hours of Reaper in the beta. And fun story, I was actually challenged by some of my friends. $200 if I could hit Masters on Reaper within like 12 hours or something. Now, mind you, I'd already streamed for 7 hours at this point when the challenge was made. So I was dead tired. But I ended up giving up before I even got out of Platinum. I could have easily made it to Diamond, but to hit Masters on Reaper in this current state of the game is so not fun. It was the worst idea. It was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I wanted to cry. So I did. I did cry. It's okay to cry. I didn't actually cry, but it would be okay if I did. Anyway, let's start talking about the items. First, we've got the Cursed Dagger. Now, the Cursed Dagger is pretty cool. It used to be the king of Reaper builds. You used to put this bad boy on some scythes, some dark sabers, and you would have a great time. On stun, it triggers an extra attack just like a normal dagger, but on hit, it inflicts 2 random debuffs. This and star items have 1% accuracy and 1% crit chance per debuff of your opponent. So this is an incredible item, but it does not work in the current meta. By the time you've built up enough debuffs to give yourself some nice crit and stuff, you're dead. The Pyromancer has killed you. The Reaper has killed you. Even the Ranger might have killed you at this point. It doesn't matter how many defensive items you get. You can get 30 shields, 30 armors, incredible corrupted crystals, poison bomb, whatever you can imagine. It's not going to happen. This just does not scale enough. I'm going to put this and never play this ever. Seriously. In the current state of the game. Yo, I'm moving the ranger stuff down to C. Never play Curse Dagger. Seriously. You know, okay. Hear me out. Blind builds are big right now. You can actually lose to a blind build, but it's so hard to put together. This is going to be around B or A, simply because the state of the current meta, blind is so strong right now. This was some Dark Saber action. Can win games against Pyromancer and Berserker specifically. Berserker is going to have the harder time with this. But if they build around this, you're still not going to win. You just do not have that power. Next, we've got the Nocturnal Lock Lifter. So this item, start a battle to gain 2 vamp, weapons steal 20% life, your healing is amplified by 25%, and your poison steals life through vampirism. This item is really not that good. I'm putting this in the never play this seriously. Now, it used to be the king with unhealing builds and stuff. You cannot play unhealing. You cannot play any of these builds. You cannot play Bloodthorn. You will be dead before anything good goes your way. Do not play this item. You're going to have a bad time, man. It's going to be terrible. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Never play this item seriously. Next, we have Mr. Struggles. Every 3 seconds, you're inflicting fatigue damage. On debuff, you have a 35% chance to inflict the same debuff. And when your health drops below 50%, the starred items trigger 100% faster for 8 seconds. Plushies are now offered in the shop. So the plushies are cute, right? You got Mrs. Struggles, you got the giraffe, and there's one other thing, but none of them are good. They're so bad. There was one game where I made a Mrs. Struggles harem. We had like 4 Mrs. Struggles to 1 Mr. Struggles, and he was living life. He was a happy man. But this item sucks. It's going to go into C tier probably. You will be dead before you can fatigue your opponents. Most people are really... Their damage is scaling better than your fatigue. If they have a perfect Sapphire, which a lot of Anvil builds are going to have, you're so dead. If they've got a million heat, which a lot of Pyromancer builds are going to have, you are so dead. You will never survive the onslaught. It's a low C tier. Look, you could high roll the most things in the world. You could high roll them, but you're still going to have a bad time. It's that stinky. And now I notice we don't have the snake. Snakes here, everybody. Get your snakes. Next item we're going to talk about is the snake. Now, this item's very interesting. This item, on day 1, I really thought that it would be good. I really thought this snake would be able to contend with Pyros and Reapers because it was. I was destroying people that did not know how to play the game yet. But now that people have learned how to play the game, the snake just does not scale your damage fast enough. For example, poison, which the snake is inflicting, only ticks every 2 seconds. A proper double axe ticks every 0.5 seconds, every 0.6, every 0.7. It's guaranteed to be faster than 1 second at the very least, and it is hitting for more than your poison could. So don't get the snake. It's not worth it. I do think the snake fundamentally can become a very powerful item. I'm going to tell you what it does real quick because I forgot. You got 5% chance for each luck to protect poison on your opponent from being cleansed. The start of the battle, you gain 4 luck and 30 maximum health for each star pet. Every 2 seconds, you inflict 2 poison. I've seen so many people try to make this item work, including myself. On a lot of my grind to masters with the Reaper, which I did not accomplish, by the way, I was playing the snake, and I just really think the item is ready to be strong. If they were to nerf Double Axe, if they were to nerf some things about Pyromancer, it will be strong. But depending on what approach they take to game balance, assuming they do balance this game, which they should balance the game, for real. The snake will be very quickly a very strong item. It will be hidden OP tech. I'm going to put it over these other 2. Hot take, the snake will become a god tier item at some point in this game. It's just ready for it. With a little poison goob action or a scythe action, the snake is ready. It is slithering to a town near you. Watch out. Next, we've got the cauldron. Every 5 seconds you heal for 10 or gain 3 mana or gain 2 heat. That passive, that effect, ugh. I don't know. It's too random. It's too random for me. It triggers 15% faster for each food shop. For each food. When you enter the shop, you're going to upgrade an adjacent potion. You might read this and you might think, damn, that's OP. We could have overpowered potions. We could have enhanced potions. Yeah, you can, but your builds are based around your class item more often than not. Your class item is going to be one of the most useful things you could ever do. You're basically not having a class item just for the sake of having some better potions. That's not going to happen. Right now, this is a never play this item, ever. Seriously. It's just not it. It's not there. The gaining the health, the gaining the mana, the gaining the heat. A random effect of the 3 every 5 seconds, maybe sped up by some food and stuff. Come on. That's not it. This is a terrible item. Yeah, it's got a cute face and it's smiling. But no, guys, don't get this item. Don't do it to yourself. There was a game that I got this item. It was about in silver rank, so I should be, quote-unquote, smurfing. I should have a real easy time, having played 300 hours of the beta. And I had to literally sell this item. And only then did I start winning. It was just wasting my board. It was wasting my economy. It was not worth it. This item is not it. It needs a complete rework or something. I don't know. It's not it. I like the idea, but the current meta is just so fast. It's way too fast for that. Next, we've got the storage coven. You're going to add 8 backpack slots, which is nice. And items inside activates. You have a 25% chance to inflict 1 poison. Now, those of you know that poison does damage every 2 seconds per stack. This item, as far as bags go, it's actually not that bad. I'm going to put it in B tier, maybe A tier. You will win early game games simply due to stacking poison and stuff. If you have some good fruit and vegetable setups, then you will have a good time. You're going to put some garlic, some blueberries, some any of that in there. Make sure your weapons are slightly touching it. If you maximize your space output in this bag, give yourself all those chances to inflict poison, then this item is actually better than some of the other bags in the early game. It's really going to fall off in the late game. It doesn't even be relevant in the late game. It's not even really worth optimizing in the late game, but for those first few rounds, you are guaranteed a win. If you just play properly, you play defensively, you build defensively, you could very much easily get 3, 4, 5 wins, and it's always been like that, and it still is. The poison bag is pretty good. Finally, we're going to talk about the Pyromancer. Now, the Pyromancer, for those of you that don't know, is very strong. We also somehow missed another item. I don't know how this happened. I've also decided to do this differently. We are actually going to rate the bag first before the items, because the items kind of depend on the bag itself. Sorry, I kind of thought about it last character, but here we are now. Whatever. Let's go. Starting with the Pyromancer bag. What the is this? This item is so stinky made. It is so oppressive. Shop entered. Spend 1 gold to generate a flame. It happens every turn, whether you like it or not. It's perfectly fine that it happens. It's OP. Start of battle. Gain 5 maximum health for each fire item inside. Have you ever pulled up to turn 1 with an additional 40 health in a round where people are not even like hitting above like 3 or 4 per attack, and you're gonna survive 10 extra hits just for being a Pyromancer? What the heck is that? What is that design? Who thought this was a good idea? This is a horrendous idea. It's so bad. It's so broken. This is the most broken item in the game. I'm gonna stop crying. This is the stupidest item in the game, and it's why Pyromancers get away with just farming those whetstones, putting nothing else in their bag. Those cocky Pyromancers don't even have to play the game to get 2 or 3 free wins, and it is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Now, this does fall off a bit later in the game, but does it really? Does it really, man? You were gaining the heat and stuff. I don't know. It's so strong. I don't know what they're doing. They could take the health buff and half it, and it would still be pretty strong in my opinion. If you're a Pyromancer main, I'm sorry, but I'm not. Berserker double axe needs to be nerfed. Pyromancer bag needs to be nerfed. Then we will achieve true homeostasis. A beautiful, beautiful world. Anyway, next we're going to talk about the friendly fire. And I believe friendly fire is an item that does exactly what it says it does. Murders you. This item is true friendly fire. Every 3 seconds, you're going to use 1 mana. You're going to gain 2 heat. It's going to trigger 10% faster for each fire item. 20 heat reach, you're going to gain 5 luck. 40 heat reach, you're going to gain 15 regen. And 80 heat reached, which you're never going to do, by the way, against a good build, you're going to deal 100 damage. This item is so overused and so incredibly underwhelming. I'm putting it in B tier. For a Pyromancer item to find its way into B tier, you know you've messed up. It's so cute. What a cutie. He's got a little heart on his tummy too. Looks like Calcifer, blah, blah, blah. It's such a cute item. But it's not good. And it's not going to win you games in higher ranks. In lower ranks, it can be very fun. And you can find yourself getting a lot of heat. And if you ever hit the 80 heat, I'm sure it feels great to go and do 100 damage. But you are not hitting 80 heat against, like, most builds. Anyway, whenever I see this, I'm like, okay, I got a free win. Because it is just absolutely worse than the Dark Lantern, probably even the Dragon's Nest and the Burning Banner. It's just absolutely worse than those. I'm putting it into C. Honestly, from a competitive standpoint, the game shouldn't exactly be quote-unquote competitive. But when you're a streamer, you might as well go hard. Got that competitive nature, want to be the best, blah, blah, blah. Never build that item. Come on, guys. Next, we got Burning Banner. 25% chance to protect buffs on you from being removed and debuffs on your opponent from being cleansed. Holy activations gain 30% chance to inflict blind for 5 seconds. Every 3 seconds, you're removing 2 buffs from your opponent, and you gain 2 hearts, 2 regen. There's a lot going on here. What this item is going to do is it's going to allow your fire items to blind stuff. I'm sorry, your holy items to blind stuff. And every 3 seconds, you're going to remove 2 buffs from your opponent and gain 2 regen. That's pretty cool in itself. Removing buffs from opponents, gaining regen from doing that. Already, it's basically better than the Calcifer thing. I believe this item is currently probably A tier, but I think it's also hidden tech OP later. This item, if you can build it properly, I think it could be absolutely insane. It is a blinding item. In the year 2024, blind is OP. Blind is crazy. Blind goes hard. So the fact that, you know, you can have every single fire item, every single holy item, inflicting blind is insane. When you get sun armor, the kicker is your fire items become holy if they're touching the sun armor. So you can have your fire weapons, every time they hit, having that chance to inflict blind. And that's a great way to win the game. If you partner this with a light goob or maybe a lightsaber, and you somehow pull this off, get a phoenix as well, you will never die. Your opponent sure will. You will generate massive amounts of heat. They will be blind. You will have so much regen. And you're going to be stealing their buffs as well. I think this item is so incredibly hidden OP tech. I'm putting it above every other hidden OP tech. This is going to be a staple. In some forms of this meta, this will be a staple. It is probably the most sleeper OP item here. I even want to put it into S. I know the tech is there. I know it's there. People just have not figured it out. It has got that secret tech. Absolutely insane item just waiting to happen. Next, we got the Frozen Flame. So at the start of battle, gain 15 armor for each starred ice item. Here's the kicker. You're never going to find ice items. There are people who think ice items do not exist in the shop. They really don't. You can find them sometimes. They're so hard to find. I don't know why. I've had games where I will use every single roll just to try to find ice items. I save up all my gold. I use every single roll. I get like 1 or 2. This is so unreliable because you need the ice items. More specifically, you need that ice bloodthirster. And if you don't get it, you're going to have a bad time. The frostbite. So 5 heat gained, you inflict 2 frost for each frost on your opponent. The green item has 2% crit chance and 2% crit damage. That's pretty good. This is waiting to be hidden OP tech. But right now, it's like never play this. It's also C tier, it's also B tier. I don't know, man, where to put this because it can be really strong. It's going to crush Berserkers in the future. But right now, it is so impossible to find ice items that I'm not putting it hidden tech. I'm just putting never play this seriously because it's one of the most frustrating things. One of the absolute most frustrating things to try to put yourself through. You will not find the ice items in the shop. You'll be disappointed. It might happen one game that you get the items you need. The next one after that, you're not going to have them. You're going to say, damn, I should have listened to Baby Smooth. That was terrible. I didn't have a good time. Next, we've got the Dark Lantern. Start a battle, lose 50% health. Before defeat, reincarnate with 50% life and become invulnerable for 2 seconds. On reincarnation, deal 10 damage for each fire item and inflict 6 debuffs for each dark item. You can get up to 4 items of each type. Obviously, it's going to be harder to get dark items than it is to get fire items since you're literally given the fire items for free. Now, the Dark Lantern is insane because every time you reincarnate, you're dealing up to 40 damage, maybe 50. I think it's 40, and inflicting those debuffs. I've gotten scammed by this build before. It's inflicted so much blind on me. I've gotten high roll blinds, and it made me feel sad. The debuffs in this game, if I'm not mistaken, are just frost, blind, and poison. And so if they get a lot of blind on you, a lot of frost on you, you're going to have a bad time. If it's poison, it's not too bad. The Dark Lantern is going to S tier. This item peaks in the mid-game. You will be basically guaranteed to lose to this build. The game is in a weird state. If you see this Dark Lantern in the mid-game, you're dead. You just accept defeat. If they have a Phoenix, it's over. If you're like round 8 through 12, you just already lose. It's over because you just cannot compete with the output of every time they revive, they become invincible for a little bit and they do massive amounts of damage. It's just not happening. It's basically a free crown. God forbid they have a crown too. Being invulnerable is really strong in this game. It prevents you from life stealing. And this item is just really, really respectable. Last but not least, but maybe least, we've got the Dragon Nest. The start of battle, you gain 3 luck, 2 regen, and 4 mana, and 5 heat. Those base stats are enough to put this on your board, even if you don't have a dragon. Those are pretty nice for the round that you get them at. Here's the thing. Dragon attacks heal for 7, and you can have up to 6 dragons around that. That's a lot of healing. Dragon eggs hatch after 1 round, and dragon eggs are offered in the shop. Now, the dragons are really cute, and this build has potential, but I think people are playing it wrong and or getting unlucky. Now, all you have to do to beat a dragon build is put amethyst in your armor, and they will have no healing. Also, nice voice crack, Baby Smooth. Anyway, put amethyst in your armor, get some moon shield. You'll stop them in their tracks. The dragons will still attack, but their main weapons won't be able to. They'll be so out of stamina. If you get a moon shield, it is over. You will stop 99% of dragon builds with this one simple trick. The real scary thing is, once dragon tech with poison dragons comes out, everybody will burn in a poisonous fire of death. That stuff is really strong. If they get like 3 poison dragons, you're going to have a bad time. It does basically inflict more than the snake ever could, at least around the same amount. And it's crazy. You do not want to see someone with a bunch of green or purple dragons. You're going to have a terrible time. So we're going to put the dragon build at the top of A tier. I'm not impressed with the dragon build. I think it's very counterable, very beatable, and it will lose to just most berserkers. But it's still really fun to do, I guess. There are some people that say, oh, it's not that fun of an item because it takes up so much space, and I guess they're right. But I liked it. I liked the idea of being a dragon tamer and having a bunch of dragons running around. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. That's all I've got for today. Maybe, next time it'll be shorter. I can't believe we talked for 42 minutes. If you somehow made it to the end of this, good job, I guess. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to be putting out a lot more Backpack Battles content and grinding to Grandmaster and or Grandmom rank on the other classes as well. So, I bid you farewell. That was Cringe. And good luck. And thanks for watching, guys. And good luck out there, gamers. You're going to need it if you see my boards. Bye-bye.